Hi, my name is Dr. Marty Jordan. I'm a family nurse practitioner, and I'm also a graduate student in the Health Informatics program at the University of New England. And I'm going to describe case study 3, which was a record request. The director of Health Informatics Systems was having difficulty responding to subpoenas requesting medical records. And why was this happening? Because the hospital that they worked at were transitioning from paper charts to electronic health records. And during this period of time, the paper records were getting scanned into the chart and inconsistently, and these paper records would include consent forms, nursing notes, and transcribed records. So the consent forms could be scanned in during the hospitalization, the nursing notes could be scanned in right after discharge, and then the transcriptions could occur at any time because physicians aren't always known for transcribing discharge summaries immediately after the patient discharged, and so sometimes those would lapse, and they would be, I've worked with physicians who have not dictated discharge summaries for up to 30 days later. So that's the process that happens there. So then the electronic components of the chart are there, so they're lab reports and physician's orders. But then when you go to try to find all those pieces of the chart, it's a very time-consuming process, and it's very erratic. So the latest occurrence that happened was an attorney requested records. He requested it on 2 different occasions, and what he received were 2 substantially different records. So the medical records director was subpoenaed to testify and was asked the following questions in court. How does the record request handled at the hospital? What was the process for responding to subpoenas requesting a copy of the legal health record? And were the records that were returned to the attorney the true and complete record for the patient? So the answer to the first question, how were record requests handled? Record requests for paper charts versus electronic health records would be handled differently. Paper requests for paper charts, the patient or their family member would fill out a paper request, and they would have to fill out the name, date of birth, address. Then they would have to fill out probably multiple sections in this request that put down, for example, what was the date of service, what type of records do you need? So they would want to know, do they want admission history? Do they want consult reports? Do they want progress notes from the physicians? Do they want discharge summary? Do they want nursing notes? Do they want labs? Do they want x-ray reports? If it was an electronic health record, there's processes to develop what is called the legal health record whenever it's an electronic record. And so the hospital has to develop a process, and they have to specify what is exactly in the legal record. And this is determined by state and national regulatory statutes, and it varies from state to state, and so they would have to have that developed before they could provide that legal health record for the subpoena. So what is the process for responding to a subpoena? The medical records department knows it's a legal process, and they know that they're supposed to respond to a subpoena with providing the medical record as it's kept by the hospital. So the last question, were the records that were returned to the attorney the true and complete record? Yes, they were. I would inform the courts that the paper record and the electronic record could be different, and that the hospital was in the process of transitioning from paper records to electronic records, and that could have been why this was a difference. So the next thing the attorneys asked were, what was the steps? No, The next thing were the questions that what steps should the director take to ensure that the responses to the subpoenas are consistent from now on for the true and complete health record of a patient. So, first of all, they need to know and have this published for all the staff in the health information department to know. They need to know about what subpoenas, what's the responsibility during subpoenas. And from chapter 4 in our textbook, it talks about the person responding to a subpoena must produce the record as they're kept in the usual course of business, or organize and label them to what constitutes the health record that is kept in the usual course of business. And I would, like I said, I would make sure that I announced this in a staff meeting and had it posted somewhere so everybody would know this. The next step, I would have a meeting with clinical staff and develop a task force so that we could develop a process for what would be included in the legal health record. So most organizations now have a hybrid health record because it contains paper and electronic components. The paper records are the consents and then the advanced directives or the pulse, things like that. And it's recommended now that the legal health record is listed and managed by source. So it would include clinical sources, administrative sources, and financial sources. And as I said before, it's defined by laws and regulations governing maintenance, content, and documentation. And this varies by practice settings, state and federal laws and regulations, and your accrediting bodies. So, after laws and regulations are checked, the task force should create a document to define what's included in the legal health record. And then policies and procedures should be developed to state what the official legal health record is. You also should develop who can request information, who can place it in the record, and then if you don't use it, what happens to it? Does it get sent back to where it came from, to the patient, or does it get destroyed? And because this is protected health information, you need to have that policy in place. So our reference for this case study was our textbook, which is Brodnick, Reinhardt, Thompson, and Reynolds, Fundamentals of Law for Health Information Management. And thank you for your time.